All right, so why your diet keeps failing and how to fix it. I'm going to walk you through calculating and explaining what your TDEE is, calories, macros, how to determine your goals with actual numbers in mind, how to measure your progress, and the pros and cons of a meal plan versus macros. For those of you that don't know me and don't know my journey here, I am the bodybuilding vegan. I've worked with over 500 athletes over the past 5 years, being a coach in the fitness space. Some people just simply for health. A lot of people are athletes that work with me as well. Um, Basically, it is my goal to help as many people as I can in my lifetime and also help show people that they do not need to eat animals or have animal proteins to reach their goals. So I asked if you guys had any questions. Kimberly had mentioned that she wants to get some other ways to find more protein in her diet, so we will cover that. But I wanted to just go over a few questions that I typically get asked by clients or by people that want to be a little bit more educated on nutrition. So, like the one that I hear a lot is like, do carbs make me fat? And that is a good question. And in a roundabout way, carbohydrates could make you fat, but not necessarily any more fat than any other energy source. So carbs directly don't make you fat. Eating too much total food, too many total calories is what will contribute to that. Carbohydrates will actually help you perform better while you're training, which can allow you to build more muscle and then ultimately be able to stay at a lower body fat percentage year round. Um, when we're talking about diets, a lot of people are curious about like the keto or the carnivore diet. Some people have had success with these diets, at least in the very short term. And when we look at the keto or carnivore diet, we basically eliminate an entire food group. We basically do not eat carbohydrates. So the reason that people might see some fat loss success with something like keto or carnivore is simply they've eliminated so many possible foods, so many foods from carbohydrates that it allows them to somewhat stick to this way of eating a little bit better. But for many reasons, I would not encourage anyone to do that. As far as what about like raw food diets? I think there is some merit to eating raw foods. I don't think that I have seen very many people for an extended period of time thrive on a raw foods diet. I think if you were trying to quickly lose weight, quickly cut calories, eating strictly raw might allow you to drop body weight pretty fast without having to specifically track anything. But in my own experience and experience with clients, I feel like raw is also very restrictive. So why do all diets eventually fail? I mean, like if there was one perfect diet out there, I think that people would just gravitate towards it, stick with it, and it would work really well. So in this case, I feel like keto, carnivore, raw, the kind of similar theme that comes across with all of them is that it removes a lot of variability. It removes a lot of options. And I just don't think that people are able to stick with it for a lifetime. If it's so restrictive that it feels like you're basically imprisoning yourself in this diet and there's no flexibility, even if the results are great, most people aren't going to want to stick with it. And then the problem is once you don't stay fully raw or fully keto or fully carnivore, you don't have any guidelines or any guardrails to keep you on track once you leave that area. So I will show you what's worked with my clients and what I've done with myself, but also want to take this a little bit deeper than just saying, hey, go do this, and teach you guys more of how you can do this for yourselves. So where we're going to start is how to calculate your TDEE. That's your total daily energy expenditure. So when people say like, oh, I have a fast metabolism or a slow metabolism, this kind of factors into that. Our metabolic rates don't actually vary that much, but there are other lifestyle things that can vary. Of course, a 300-pound man is going to have a higher metabolism than a 100-pound woman, just simply from having all that extra body mass and having to carry that around. But things that really do also impact how many calories we use in a day are simple things like movement. Even just getting steps. Steps can be a huge source of caloric expenditure. And so when we take all these variables, we can plug them into a TDEE calculator. And this gives us a really good idea of where we will want to set our calories to help us reach the body composition and the physique goals that we have. So this will probably be useful for you guys if you want to take notes, whether they're physical with a pen and paper, or if you want to write them down in the notes in your note app. I would recommend taking notes on this. I kind of know all this information, but it's going to be easier for you guys if you're able to write it down than try to memorize it. So what we'll start with is finding the TDEE calculator, and I'll show you guys exactly how I do it. I just head on over into Google and I type in TDEE calculator. The first result is the most popular one. I guess it's tdecalculator.net. Use this for like a decade. It's relatively reliable and a really good starting point. This won't be exactly perfect for everyone each time, but it will get you guys close enough to where you are able to use this going forward and have a starting point. So when you click into their website, basically it shows you how many calories you burn every day with what you're currently doing. So what I'm going to say, you can take the time right now to do this for yourself. You can plug in your information, obviously male or female. You could plug in your age. You could plug in your body weight. I was 275 pounds this morning. Plug in your height. And then this will be a big part, is the activity. Like how active are you? And this is where you want to consider things like lifting weights, things like going on walks. So for me, I don't lift 6 or 7 days a week, but I definitely get in a little bit of cardio, a little bit of walks with my family on the days off. So you plug all this in and you hit calculate. So I'll give you guys another few seconds there to get yours figured out. And if you make a mistake, you can always hit recalculate. And so once you plug all that in, it will give you your maintenance calories for the day. So for me, we're looking at about 3,800 calories. What that means is if I kept my daily expenditure exactly the same, so if my exercise was the same, I would need about 3,800 calories every single day to make sure that I don't gain any weight or lose any weight. And I would say this for me is relatively accurate. Maybe my expenditure is a little bit higher because I do eat a bit more than this, but that would give you your starting point, 3,800 calories. So what do we do with that? Once we have our calories, we can build out and track our macros if we want to go that deep. For some people, if we're just looking for fat loss, just looking for losing a little bit of body fat and not overly concerned about building muscle or anything else, it can be easiest just to track calories. Eat, whatever your maintenance calories are from a variety of mostly healthy foods. I follow the 80-20 rule. Like if 80% of what you eat is healthy, you should still be able to make progress for your goals with 20% of foods that you strictly just enjoy for fun. So I think I'll go ahead and break down macros a little bit for you guys here, because some people maybe haven't heard that term before or know exactly what that means. But your macros are comprised of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And for some people, alcohol. I can't even spell alcohol. Alcohol. So I don't really factor alcohol in for most of my clients. I figure for most people, this isn't like a daily occurrence. To keep this brief here, you could, if you're going to program alcohol into your meal plan, replace carbohydrates with the alcohol calories. But for most people, If alcohol is just like once a day or sorry, once per week or something along those lines, I don't tell my clients to like religiously track this. If you're gonna have one drink or two drinks per week, I kind of just consider that as part of like your meal off plan. But proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, that's where probably 95 to 100% of your calories should be coming from. Proteins have 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates also have 4 calories per gram. Fats are a little bit different though. Fats are a higher concentration of energy per gram. We have 9 calories per gram here. And so we can take this information and build out what we want our macros to be for the day based on our calories as well. So in this like real world example for me, and this is me going a little bit into the weeds. This is kind of more advanced. If this is a little bit over your head, no worries here. This would be kind of more the last thing. So maybe I'm doing this a little bit out of order, but just want to take a moment to kind of explain practically how this might look on a meal plan or for you in general. So again, if let's say I was trying to build a diet, let's say I want to just maintain my body weight. I don't want to gain weight. I don't want to lose weight. I'm just going to eat 3,800 calories per day. Where do I want to pull those calories from? For me, I typically do, or for my clients, about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight if your goal is to build muscle. If you're not concerned with building muscle, you cut that in half if you want. So for me, I'll say 275 grams protein per day. You can multiply this by 4, since up here, there's 4 calories per gram. And I'm going to grab a calculator because for me, it is just going to be easier to plug this into a calculator. 275 times 4. So it's 1,100 calories per day from protein. Then I typically would look at fats. For fats, men, I typically don't like to go under 50 grams per day. It's just kind of a ballpark. For women, not under more like 40 grams per day. It's usually about as low as I'll get. If I have somebody that's like 100 pounds, it might be different, but for in general, that's where I would put people. So for myself, say like for good hormonal support, something like 75 grams per day would probably be fine. So 75 grams of fat. Sorry for fats. 75 grams of fat per day. I'm going to multiply that by 9. No worries, Udor. We're gonna record it and send it out, so you can hop back in later. So 75 times 9 in this case would be 675. And then the rest will come in the form of carbohydrates. Let's say carbs. So we can take this 675 and the 1,100. That's going to be 1775. And I have a total 3,800 per day minus 1775. Comes to 2025 calories from carbs each day. So 2025 divided by 4 equal about 506 carbs per day. Now, this might seem, I don't know, I've done this so many times, so this seems really easy to me. Additionally, if you go back into this TDEE calculator, they do allow you to pick your cutting, bulking goals, and pick your macros from this. So if we go with like the higher carb approach, this is relatively close to where I was. I would say for most people, the higher carb approach works better. For some people, they do run a little bit better on higher fats. I'll just say as like a ballpark, if you've never tried it before, I'd probably go with that more of that higher carb function. They also do have a bulking and a cutting option here, but I would probably just work from the maintenance and then build in your specific goals from there. And so that's where we can probably head next. So yeah, so we're going to talk now very quickly. MyFitnessPal and Chronometer are good apps that you guys can use to track. I can make this a little bit bigger if that makes it easier to see. So MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, both of those are solid apps to track. I've used MyFitnessPal for like 15 years now. Chronometer goes a little bit further and you can track micronutrients a little bit easier. Either one are good, and I think they both have free options. So then we want to talk about the difference between bulking and cutting, or gaining muscle and losing fat, whatever terminology you want to use for it. And a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to start bulking or I'm going to start cutting. I need to change exactly what I eat. And that's not necessarily the case. I don't recommend this, but I know people that have successfully tracked calories and lost weight eating just McDonald's. I think it can be done. I don't recommend it. So there's like no magic cutting food, no magic bulking food. What I typically say is like, what are your constraints? If you're trying to gain a lot of weight and you're not hungry, then hunger would be that constraint. And it would be nice to find foods that even when your hunger isn't quite so high, you're still able to eat and digest well. Or if your digestion is an issue, like for myself right now, bulking, I'm eating a lot of food. So I have to make sure what I eat digests well. If we're cutting, back to hunger. If hunger's high, that could be a constraint. So we can find foods that keep us more full. So it's not only the foods. We still have to adhere to basically the laws of thermodynamics, making sure that the calories we eat are in line with our goals. Another really big question, and this is more of a nutrition lecture today, but another big question is, should you adjust your training? Should I do higher reps to burn more calories while I'm cutting? I would highly recommend against that. I would say training year round can stay almost identical. Sometimes in a cut, we might do a little bit less with training. I might remove a few harder sets from an individual's program, but basically the reps stay the same. We don't do high reps when we're cutting. The level of intensity, we try to keep it as high as possible. And the reason is our muscles, they need stimulus. They need feedback. If we aren't training hard, our body's like, well, I don't need to keep this extra muscle on. Muscle takes a lot of calories to maintain. So if we're not working hard, there's no reason for me to keep this. Let's get rid of it. So training really shouldn't change between cutting and bulking. I think that's a big area where a lot of people make mistakes. I also wouldn't change your training while you're making a shift with your goals. Like if you've had a great bulk and you've been following a specific training plan and you're like, okay, I want to switch to cutting and I'm a little bit bored with this training plan, so I'm going to start something completely new. Now you have to like reestablish where your strength is. You're doing new movements. You don't know exactly what weights to be at. It's harder to tell if you're making progress. So I would say keep that same training plan into at least the first month or two of the change in the diet. So if you're going to switch from cutting to bulking or bulking to cutting, I would still stay with that training plan for a little bit longer, as long as you're not getting injured or something like that along the way. So moving forward, we'll come back. No, we can do this now. Sorry. So the true difference between cutting and bulking, it really is just calories. That is the biggest difference. And so what I would recommend, coming back up here to our little equation, if we were at 3,800 calories per day as maintenance, then we know from there, if we need to bulk, we need to go above maintenance. And if we're to cut, we need to go below maintenance. What I would recommend is I would keep protein the same. I would keep fats the same, bulking or cutting for most people until we get to the extreme ends. If we're in a really, really deep deficit and cutting a lot, we might need to drop our fat. If we're in a really, really big bulk, we might need to up our fat towards the end. But for the most part, the only change will be the carbs. So what you could do, let's say you're 3,800 calories per day. We know that for every gram of carb, there are 4 calories. So we could just simply take on this example diet, we could take 100 carbs out or 125 carbs out, and dropping by 100 carbs would be 400 calories. Dropping by 125 carbs would be 500 calories. And then that way, we've kept our protein the same, we've kept our fat the same. The only thing we've changed is our carbohydrates, which then also drops our calories and allows us to start burning fat. Or same thing, if we're at this 3,800 calories per day at maintenance, not building any muscle, not burning any fat, just kind of sitting in the middle, add a little bit of carbs in, and then that could start our bulk, and that could start giving us enough resources nutritionally to build muscle. It's interesting, like protein stays about the same. So even when we go into a bulk, we don't need to increase our protein, but increasing our carbs will actually give our body more energy. And that energy can be stored, used, burned while training, create the stimulus, and then our body will use that protein to build more muscle. So I'm going to go a little bit out of order with what I've written here, but calories, basically we can adjust the calories up or down when we're bulking or when we're cutting. And then the question is how much? So I'm going to jump right in here into this 1% rule that I've created basically for my clients. And it goes 1% for the week if we're cutting, and it's for the month if we're bulking. So if we are cutting, we can lose about 1% of our body weight safely per week. So if you are a 200-pound man, you can lose about 2 pounds of body weight, of body fat per week safely. 150-pound woman, about 1.5 pounds. Obviously, if you do this long enough, if you start at 200 pounds, you lose 2 pounds a week for 10 weeks, you'll be down 20 pounds. Now you're 180 pounds. The speed at which you can lose body fat is going to slow down a little bit. And then for bulking, I say about 1% of body weight per month on average. This is a little bit harder to target. If you're a 200-pound male, adding 2 pounds over the course of a month, it's hard to see those little changes each day or each week. So a little bit of nuance there, a little bit of kind of guessing and checking, but roughly that. Like if you gain 5 pounds in the first month of your bulk and 5 pounds in the second month of your bulk, by the time we hit the third month, we're probably going to be fatter than we want to be, almost guaranteed. So what I would recommend is use a body weight scale, track daily, and then evaluate weekly. So I'll just be honest with you guys, the scale is a mind fuck for a lot of people. They'll see it go up 2 pounds. They'll think, oh no, I've gained 2 pounds of fat. Like I'm doing this all wrong. But really our body weights fluctuate a lot each day. There can be a number of things. If we're under any stress, whether it's mental or physical, our bodies can retain water. If we have undigested food in our intestinal tract, that actually weighs as well. If we don't drink a lot the day before and we show up slightly hydrated or slightly dehydrated, the scale could change. A lot of people don't do this either. They will maybe weigh themselves with their shoes on, or weigh themselves after eating breakfast, or weigh themselves after the gym. All of that just creates more variability. In the long term, though, if we zoom out far enough on the graph, it might not make that big of a deal. But especially in that week when you're in there looking at it, for a lot of people, this will mess with their heads. And they'll take these numbers and think that the numbers say everything. Like, for example, I have this cup of water right here. This is probably 3.5 to 4 pounds of water. Like that is, and I'll drink this in the next couple hours. So really, the fluctuations that we see, especially day to day, aren't worth worrying or stressing over. It's more of that weekly trend, and then even zooming out and going monthly. The other thing too is when we cut or increase our carbohydrates attach themselves to water. So if you drop like 100 carbs out of your normal daily diet today, tomorrow you'll probably be down at least a pound simply just from that, because you won't be storing as much water. So that's often why people will see themselves over the week they'll slowly lose 1, maybe 2 pounds, and then they have a meal off plan, maybe some carbs that they weren't expecting. And then they'll see themselves the next day, oh no, I'm up 3 pounds. I've gained all this weight this week. And it's like, really, give it a couple more days, stay on your plan, and you'll probably drop back even lower than you were before. Trying to get past that like mental hurdle of seeing the scale move can really help for a lot of people. Now, if it truly does bother you to track your weight daily, even if you're only evaluating it weekly, like I say, don't really look at it other than 1 day per week, you can also use progress photos. If that's easier for you. For progress photos, I would do it once per week. What works well for me is to put the phone at roughly waist height. I'll record a video, and then I can pull screenshots from that video. Super easy. Then you don't have to ask somebody to take the photos of you. I would do it somewhere with the same lighting each week. Try to like make this like kind of religious routine where the tripod, the camera, everything is exactly the same distance, so that it's easier for you to see changes. The other problem with just tracking your body weight is it doesn't tell you what we're looking at. Like maybe you didn't lose. I've had clients where they didn't really lose much body weight over 2 months, maybe down like 2 or 3 pounds. But when you look in the progress photos, you can see that they've built muscle and lost fat. And so obviously your scale doesn't account for any of the muscle that you're building. And if you're training with weights and eating a high amount of protein, even on a deficit, you should still be able to build some muscle. So try not to let this be the only determinant of your success. And also you're going to have to realize too, if you lose a pound a week indefinitely, we would all eventually end up dead. So there has to be a point in time where the loss ends and then we switch and change goals, either to maintain that loss or to build some more muscle. So the other I'm all over the place here, so thank you for bearing with me. I would recommend getting a good body weight scale that you can have at home so that it's part of your routine. I would recommend you wake up, go to the bathroom if you need to go to the bathroom, and then step on the scale either naked or in the same pajamas every single day. Keeps it as accurate as possible. The next thing I would recommend getting is a food scale. If you are going to be tracking at all in the kitchen, as far as tracking the calories or tracking the foods you eat, spoons are just not a reliable measurement of a tablespoon or a teaspoon. And then even measuring cups in my own journey. I remember this back in 2013. I got my first food scale. I was like, oh, this is stupid. I know that I measure a half a cup of my oats and then I log it as 40 grams. I can eyeball half a cup of oats. I'm pretty smart. Well, I took my half a cup of oats and I dumped it on the scale. It was supposed to be 40 grams and it was 60. And I was having half a cup of oats 2 or 3 times a day. So it made me realize, like, oh, wow, if I'm this off on this one food, how off am I throughout the whole course of the day? Like it's kind of like I've been working this hard to diligently track these cups, but it's not even close. So if you're going to make the time and effort to track, I would suggest getting a food scale. If you guys need one, just DM me. They're like $12 on Amazon. I can send you a link. But I've got like 3 of them in my kitchen right now. It just allows you to be more precise with your measurements. I'm a bit lazy when it comes to cooking too, so if I don't have to clean a bunch of cups or extra bowls to weigh things out, like makes my life a little bit easier. And then I also want to have some sort of kind of longevity built in here and not like make people think that they have to weigh everything on a scale every time for the rest of their lives. But even if you do it just for a week, you'll get much better at eyeballing roughly where food should be. So food scale, best $12 you'll ever spend. So, all right, let's continue moving forward here. So the difference in following macros or using a meal plan. I get asked this a lot, and I think that is the next good point for us to go, because we've shown you how you can figure out where your calories are based on your body weight and where you're at. We've covered if you're going to bulk or if you're going to cut, how you can adjust that plan as far as increasing your carbohydrates or decreasing your carbohydrates to manipulate your calories to be where you want to be. We've talked about how fast you should be gaining or losing weight. So now it's how do we put all that together and actually build out a plan for you? With meal plans, I do believe that for clients, they are easier and faster to get started. Like your coach, or if you have a resource for a meal plan, start today. Doesn't even take any effort on your side. It's basically there, no guesswork. The results are a bit more guaranteed because when we track our macros, there's more variability. And the more times that there are variables in play, there's a greater chance that we make a mistake or a rounding error or something along those lines that might slow down our progress. The biggest downside to a meal plan is inherently they're less flexible. It has the exact meals listed out. You're not able to just like, oh, this was on sale at the farmer's market, I'm just going to swap this right in. You can do that though with time. The reason I like macro tracking, very flexible. You can take it with you anywhere you go. If you don't have your meals prepared or you're traveling, you can still track your macros and make progress. I've done both ways. There's just more room for error when tracking your macros. Maybe you forget to add something versus your meal plan. It's kind of all there in front of you. I think long-term, historically looking at what's worked for clients of mine, the best approach is a hybrid approach where the first 1 or 2 months is more strictly of a meal plan. So if you've never lost fat before, been able to keep it off for a period of 1 to 2 months, start with a meal plan. Start with the easy win. You do that, you're locked in, pretty much guaranteed results. And then it's very easy to make changes. If you're doing 100 grams of rice in your second meal and you're not losing any weight or any body fat over the course of a week, drop your rice down to 50 grams. Like it's very easy to make those adjustments and basically ensure your progress. Then after that first month or two, after you've locked in some results, you've dropped some body fat, you can start making macro swaps. And so what I mean by that is take your meal plan and then let's say back to that, you have rice in the second meal, but you're getting a little bit tired of rice. You can start researching what are other healthy carb sources that you might like. So maybe you like sweet potatoes, maybe you like bananas, maybe you want to do like a protein pasta, whatever it is, you could then make that macro swap. And maybe instead of changing the entire meal plan, you start swapping parts of it to make it more customized, make it more unique, make it your own, things that you enjoy eating. And then from there, you can take that information and start to build your own meal plan. And it could be completely customized to yours. So I will show you guys here, like what I look at when I build a meal plan, things that I make sure I include just for overall health. And then I will show you guys how you can get some pre-built meal plans that you could either for 1 to 2 months follow these or start with them and start tweaking them and tracking your macros so that you can make it work for you. So when I start, I just kind of have this written out. I had built somebody else's meal plan. I had just taken some notes on what they wanted. So different protein options. I looked at things like TVP, tofu, especially if you don't have any soy allergies or anything like that. Seitan, you have a couple of different options here. You can make it savory, especially if you add like nutritional yeast, or sometimes what I'll do is like a seitan banana bread, and I'll take the vital wheat gluten. I'll take maybe a little bit of protein powder and some bananas, mix that together and make like a sweet seitan version. You could do something else like say grace or soy curls, basically kind of like a mock meat that you can make at home. You could add like any of the Beyond or Impossible products. You want to be careful. Sometimes the fat's a little bit higher. And then I use veg protein powder or any other plant-based protein powder. Typically, I recommend like a pea protein isolate, simply from digestion and taste preference. Next, I'll look at like a list of carbs: oats, bananas, zucchini, potatoes, beans, rice cakes. Put potatoes on there twice. Sweet potatoes would be a good option. I mean, there's tons of carbs. If you're bulking, things like dates are great. If you're cutting, I have some other fruits on here. For fats, I like to make sure that we have at least some healthy fats in the plan. Like this isn't everything that will be in the plan. These are just options that would be healthy to be included to kind of get started. Flax, avocado, nut seeds, nut butters, things along those lines. And then one that I'm really big on for my clients for digestion is probiotic foods. So I usually do like a combination. I usually do two out of three or 3 out of 3 of these. It's like a soy, a cashew, coconut, or almond yogurt. Also apple cider vinegar, and then a fermented food like kimchi or sauerkraut. If you add these in, your digestion will stay really, really solid with whatever else you build around your meal plan. For veggies, there's so many options. What I would say, like word of advice, what I've found working with clients, with myself, everybody's built a little bit differently. Most people don't digest broccoli very well, so I don't build that into meal plans anymore. But I would find the veggies that work for you. For me, at least, green beans, peas, asparagus, squash, spinach, all of those digest really well. And then any of your orange ones, so like pumpkin, orange bell peppers, carrots, those are going to be high in vitamin A. So making sure that we're hitting those micronutrients. And then we've got fruits. If you're in a cutting phase, if you're trying to keep calories lower, strawberries are going to be like best friend here. Strawberries, blueberries, apples, bananas, tons of good fruit options. So I usually do 2 or 3 fruits a day, 3 or 4 veggies a day, at least 2 of the probiotics, and then I'll build out based on the calories and their macro goals, the proteins, the carbs, and the fats. So that is like the information that I use to start building the meal plan. I think building the meal plan yourself would be the final step. What would be a really good resource is for you guys to have some sample meal plans. So if you guys go to Vegan Squad School and Google, it'll pull up our Vegan Squad community. And I think I am already logged in here. Yeah, I am. So if you guys want to pull this up, you can create an account. It has a 7-day free trial. So it'll take you like 2 minutes to get that pulled up. You can, if you don't want to stay with us, totally fine. You can cancel the trial. But once you gain access to that, I can walk you guys through and show you how to get the meal plans that we've built in here. And I think that that'd be a really good template for you. So like Kimberly, that 100 plus grams of protein, super easy to get through here. Every single meal plan we have in here is at least 100 grams of protein, and it goes up from there. And when you guys get in, you go on over into the classroom, and then the meal plans and recipes is going to be on the top right, or at least right now. And then I have a video here that kind of lays out the blueprint. I think this takes you to the instructions, which is also the TDEE calculator, and then picking your meal plan. We have them all listed here based on your calories. So what you would do is same thing, like over in the TDEE calculator, calculate roughly what your calories would be. So for me, let's say I'm going to cut, like this is my maintenance calories is 3,800 and I want to start cutting, then I would probably drop around 500 calories a day, depending upon how fast you want to lose weight. I wouldn't go much over that. So like 800 would be a pretty big jump, even for me, but I could probably get by on the 3,000 calorie meal plan. But what I've tried to do is give everyone a very solid starting point with their meal plans. And we've built them out as well. Okay, cool. I got it now. We have a soy-free row, we have a gluten-free row, and a nut-free row. If you don't have any allergies, you're able to jump in on any of them. Oh, and then we do have the meal 4 with a couple different other options. So what you can do from this is you don't have to eat them in this order each day. Like if you want to do cream of rice as your first meal, and then you want to do the TVP bowl as your second meal, and then the Segre stir fry as your third meal, that's totally fine. Or if you want to do the Segre stir fry as your first meal, the soy-free tofu meal as your second meal, the sweet seitan as your final meal, it doesn't matter. You can pick any 3 out of this, or I guess on this one, any 4 out of this each day, and the calories and the macros will match back. So it's kind of like an open-ended meal plan where you can plug and play, almost like a Legos for a meal plan. And this will really get everybody started. This should be enough variety that you could stick to this for 1 to 2 months. We have all of the ingredients listed out, exactly what you would need in grams. So you don't really have to think about it. We have the calories and the protein listed as well. So very, very easy for you to just jump right in and get started here with the caloric need that you've selected. And then, for example, we do have kind of like a built-in halfway point here. If you are still losing body fat, maybe like 1%, 1.5% per week, but not quite as fast as you want, you could drop down to the next meal plan and add on one of these 250 calorie add-ons. So we have green bites, builder bars, nuts, bananas, dates, basically another incremental step in the meal plan. So you don't have to go straight from 3,000 to the 2,500. You could do the 2,500 and add 250 calories here until you need to change it, whether you're bulking or cutting, really vice versa. So I've created the meal plans to give you guys a really solid starting point. And then as you guys gain more information and more knowledge, then you can take this and use it to build your own macros, build your own meal plans. Maybe something that you enjoy that I didn't include here, totally fine. I take no offense to that whatsoever. There's a lot of foods out there. So yeah, we have the instructions in here. Like you can just pick whichever four you prefer the most each day for this calorie amount. And my whole goal here is to not gatekeep and not prevent people from being able to have the knowledge to get success long term. At the end of the day, unless you truly, truly have like if you do everything I've listed here and it still doesn't work for you, reach out to me. There might be something deeper going on. There could be a hormone issue. There could be some type of thyroid disorder or something like that. But this would be the easiest, cheapest, fastest starting place and healthiest. Like the foods in here, healthy. So it would support your goals as you're cutting or bulking. But then you should have the knowledge to go and do this on your own. Now, if you're like myself, I have the knowledge. I do this for a living, but sometimes it's nice to have some extra accountability. So I do have a coach myself, just so that I don't have to think of all these things. But if I needed to, it's pretty easy for me to write out the plan. It's just making sure that I follow through with it. And Rita asked, I hope I said your name correctly, asked some good questions. What about beans and lentils as protein sources, kidney beans, chickpeas, etc.? So great question. And this is something that we can all start to do is we can look at the nutritional labels on foods. And when you go and you look at these, you'll notice that the carbohydrates are significantly higher than the protein, and the fiber is also very high. So I view kidney beans, chickpeas more so as a carbohydrate source and as a fiber source, and just honestly like a pretty powerhouse of a food. Most of these are very high in potassium, so definitely healthy foods to have. But a lot of vegans get stuck not being able to get enough protein to hit their macros because they're eating things like beans that aren't actually that high in protein, but are still relatively filling, healthy foods. So should beans be a part of your diet? 100%. Should beans be your main go-to to find protein? I would recommend probably not. Is TVP safe to eat? 100%. TVP has been around, I think, since the 1940s, almost 100 years here. It is high in protein. It's basically defatted soy flour. So soybeans are high in protein and high in fats. And so they've removed some of the fats here and basically created a higher protein food source. So what I would do, you could take some of that TVP and mix it with beans. And then you're going to get some of the protein from the TVP, the protein and the carbs from the beans. Then you got a pretty well-rounded meal. TVP can be made basically however you want to make it. I've mixed it in with protein oats before and made it like kind of a sweeter food. Mix it with like taco sauce and or a taco mix and kind of make almost like a Mexican ground beef style. Mix that with some beans or with rice. Super good. I think we have it. Yeah, we have it in a few of our meals here. So I think I've basically covered what I've set out to do here. Thank you for bearing with me. It was a little bit all over the place, a bit of a winding road, but I just wanted to show you guys there's no one fixed diet out there, one guru, or eat this juice or do this thing. Not that I've found in my career of doing this, but what has worked has been tracking what I'm eating. I would also recommend track what you do in the gym so that you know if you're getting stronger or not. Having an accurate way to measure yourself, whether that's check-in photos or weighing yourself or a combination of the two. And then being able to apply that in a way that works for you. Meal plans, they can be great. I think for me, what I personally do is I follow a meal plan usually 6 days a week. And then on a weekend or something like that, I will take the time to kind of eat if I want something else. I'm in Florida, so they have pub subs. We might do that today. One meal off per week won't destroy any plan out there unless you're a month or two from stepping on a bodybuilding stage. I would never worry about that. Some people, my girlfriend, she likes to more of track her macros every day. For me, that's a little bit exhausting. Having to go in and replan my foods every single day is a little bit too much for me. So I will mostly follow this meal plan just for my own mental health. And Rita, yes, in the community, we do have training plans as well. So it'd be back up in that classroom tab. You just start in there. It's Vegan Strong, Train Smarter and Harder. We have some instructions and some different options for people based on what you have. So if you're either training at home or you're training at home with a little home gym or just home with no equipment, or if you have a gym that you can go to, we've got all that listed out in here. You can DM me in the community. I can show you how to find a good plan for you after this, since it's a little bit outside the scope of what we were doing today. As far as meal plans go, or calorie counting, or anything else along these lines, is there any other questions that I could answer? Happy to try and figure anything out. I think one beautiful part of this is like self-experimentation, finding what works for you. Not everybody digests everything the same. I've noticed that as a coach. Like I said, broccoli doesn't digest well for most people. White rice, on the other hand, digests well for almost every single person on the planet. Sweet potatoes seems like 80% of people can digest them well, about 20% get some bloating. So it's just, for the people it works for, it works great. For the people it doesn't work. And so some of this, even if, we have these pre-built meal plans, you're going to want to assess how you feel after the meal. Do you feel good? Do you feel sluggish? Do you feel bloated? Are you gassy? Like if you're gassy, like people make jokes all the time that vegans are gassy, but if you're eating, black beans and kale and spinach and quinoa and tomatoes and then raw onions all in a bowl together, like if you look at it, it's a ton of fiber, a lot of foods that are a little bit harder to digest. So it's not surprising that our body might have some gas after that. So all righty. Well, I don't want to keep anybody here longer than they need to be kept here. You guys, Dustin, of course, in the community already, you guys can reach me there anytime you need. And if you guys think of anything extra after, just send me a message. I'm here to help. For those of you that are vegan, thank you for being vegan. Thank you for making the world a better place. I am excited to help with anything else. So if you guys have questions or think that there'd be another good video for me to make in the future, let me know. All right, everybody. See you guys
Thank you.
next time. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.